Got to take time to thank the people that make it all possible here at Low Budget Live, like the folks from Gill Fishing, gillfishing.com. They want you to save money on the best outdoor gear, like the Apex rain suit, like the Fitzroy jacket, like their waterproof gloves, their waterproof beanies. This time of year, you're going to want it. Gill Fishing has got it. And for being a lowlifer and using code LBL20, you can save money at gillfishing.com. Pro Guy Batteries, ProGuyBatteries.com. Another great company that wants you to save money just for being a lowlifer on the best batteries in the game, built by a company that has been in the battery business for years and are trusted by so many different OEM boat manufacturers. They've got lead acids, AGMs, and some of the best lithiums in the game, along with their new charger line. LBL10 saves you money at ProGuyBatteries.com. Let them know you are a lowlifer. Damn these
Biloxi blues, it happens every night.
Every night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
Nope.
Summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know my name, and I don't care.
Nope.
No, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low Budget Live, otherwise known as cold as crap Budget Live, this morning from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in frozen Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. It's 13 degrees as I record this. But this is the podcast for February the 24th, 2025, the last February before the last Monday in February, the last Monday before them boys will be practicing in the MPFL next week at Santee Cooper before we fire things up. All new live stream, all kinds of new goodies coming your way. So this is the last one. This is the last one. I'm actually recording a couple days early. I got to go down to the Alabama Bass Trail this afternoon, Lake Martin for the ABT South, and recording this a little bit early, so the Bassmaster Elite is not finished on the St. Johns River. It is frozen down there as well, and I'm glad I'm not in sucky cold Florida, because nobody wants to be cold in Florida. The people that live there, the fish, it's awful. It's the coldest place I've ever been when it's cold. It can be 40 degrees down there and feel like it's 19. It is absolutely brutal. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I am not there. I'm also grateful to get to tell you about this once again. March 22nd, Low Budget live at Birdie's Social Club, Fort Worth, Texas, during the Bassmaster Classic, Fort Worth, Texas. March 22nd, Birdie's Social Club. Live podcast to kick the night off, and then music with myself and the Fat Rascals. If you have been there the last few years, you know we have a large time. If you have not, and this is your first opportunity, do not miss it, because we are going to have a Texas-sized great time at Birdie Social Club. All right, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We will see y'all in Fort Worth. I want to start off by saying I want to apologize to the winner of the Bassmaster Open, Chris Miller there. EQ, I don't guess they're called the EQs anymore. Bassmaster Open one-day shootout. Weather wreaking havoc in the opens, and I feel like it really does a lot, and those are tough decisions to make as a tournament director. Obviously, saw Randall Tharp make a video about it the other day. What got me with that one, and look, in NPFL, Lake Cumberland, Taylor Watkins won a one-day shootout, flooded, crazy conditions. The league elected to have a one-day shootout. I was against it when they first called me to tell me that. Actually, Brad Fuller and I had a very heated discussion about it. He'll tell you about that someday. And then we cooled our jets. But we did. I was like, man, a one-day tournament's the first day of the year. There's points on the line. I understood it, and I'm not sure Bassmaster's reasoning behind this, but what does suck and it did with the NPFL as well, is the points implications in it. And we didn't have a championship that year, so it really didn't matter other than Angler of the Year. But when you're trying to make that top 50, you're trying to get to that EQ deal, you're trying to get to the Elite Series. I do think it sucks, the one-day deal. And again, I know they had 2 elites coming up back-to-back. Probably has to do with logistics. I have no doubt about it, why they couldn't push it into Sunday. Maybe the weather was going to be bad again Sunday. I don't know. I'm just saying, a guy gets a lucky bite or 2, he's sitting pretty in the points, 3 more tournaments to go. You don't get a big bite and you catch you 12 pounds, you're down there in 100. It could suck. It could alter your entire year. And maybe you would have sucked 2 days, maybe you would have sucked 3 days. If you got to fish all 3, you wouldn't have put it together. But having the chance is a big deal. So I did think that was a little, kind of sucked. But shout out to Chris Miller for winning that thing, dude. Going to the Bassmaster Classic in a one-day BFL shootout. As a former Elite Series pro called it this week that was in that event that I talked to said, yeah, it was like a BFL one-day shootout. Pretty cool. Not gonna lie, I love that. But I think points implications-wise kind of sucks. Kind of have an asterisk next to it. It is what it is. Mother Nature rules all in those decisions. I know Hank Weldon didn't make that decision lightly. Big fan of Hank's. And it just, I just think about that, though, long term with the implications. And man, we're only 2 events in. They're going to Kentucky Lake next in March. What's up, old boy? Old Boy Outfitters is made for us low-lifers that love to hunt and fish and wear our heart on our sleeve, literally, out and about to let everybody know what your passions are. They've got amazing hats. They've got hoodies. They've got some new sun shirts, hooded sun shirts that are bad to the bone. You can check it all out at oldboyoutfitters.com and use code OLEBOY, O-L-E, boy, Luke, to let them know you are a low lifer, old boy. Baitworks.com, bait-wrx.com is where you can find this little cricket right here, the LOB jig with that custom trocar hook, finer than frog hair skirt material, 7 amazing fish catching colors. It's all right there at baitworks.com. Duncan-10 lets them know you are a low lifer and saves you money on everything on the site. Bait-works.com is where it all goes down. And last but certainly not least, Express Boats hang the dadgum banner. The first ever aluminum bass boat to take a ride around an arena with a Bassmaster Classic trophy. That's right, the X21 Pro with a 250 Yamaha show. Fastest hole shot in the game. More tackle storage than you can shake a stick at. 96-inch beam can handle whatever you throw at it. Trust me. But also at Express Boats, they have a boat for every budget, whether that's the H17, the new H20, the X19, and all sorts of models in between. Check them out, expressboats.com. You can find a dealer near you. Go look at them. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Express Boats, building excitement since 1966. No telling what the wind could bring there. I mean, I think in a couple weeks, actually, it's going to be, potential for it to blow up there, be rough. So I hate these canceled days, but it just is what it is. We saw it with the MPFL last December at Murray. We had to move an entire event because of a hurricane last year in September at St. John's. We've had a cancellation at Santee Cooper a couple years ago. Like, it just happens. And when it comes down to angler safety, you can't put them out there, and I do understand that. But I just wish there was a better contingency program in place so we can get in more fishing sometimes. I do wish that. That is for sure. All right. Keith Poche made an apology video. I heard because I can't see it, because Keith, he winches to them trees to pull himself into areas. He winched my profiles and blocked them. So I don't know. I'm not sure. He didn't apologize to me for blocking me. He didn't apologize to Matt Pangrak from BTL for blocking him. I found out I was in great company with my dude, Panger, and being blocked by Keith Poche. It is bananas. He went on a blocking spree and then went on to catch 1 bass on the final day. So I don't know. It's sounds like he made an apology, though. Good for him. Good for him on that. Again, I still think he would not, because somebody said, well, you say, I saw this on a Facebook comment. They said, well, you say that he won't stand up. He's just kind of running his mouth on the internet being a whiny ass. which he was. But you say that, but man, he went at Ish that one time, and when Ish knocked him out of the boat, after he crawled in Ish's boat, he filed charges on Ish. So yeah, there you go. He got the smoke, and then he filed charges. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. You can't block me more than I'm already blocked, Keith. Is what it is. All right. Not sure if Adrian apologized to anybody. I don't think he's got to in this situation. I think Adrian was in the right, looks like. All right. We're going to talk to a guy that it was the subject of conversation between Drew Gill and I last week. I'm glad to be able to do this. I know he did BTO, my buddy Panger, last week, and I've never had him on this show for whatever reason. Me and this guy go way back. We have run the roads together. We fished together, and one of my favorite human beings that I have ever got to spend any amount of time around. Hilarious, full of wisdom, a bass catching, freak that, man, he just has it going on all the time. $2.2 million in career earnings. $2.2 million in career earnings, 25 years into his amazing career. Just came up short at the BPT there at the Harris Chain, and we're going to talk to him right now about all sorts of things. Big Show Terry Scroggins. All right, as promised, here he is, the one and only Big Show, finally on Low Budget Live. Thanks for joining me, buddy, on a cold
Hey, what's
morning.
up? What's up,
Man,
guys?
Man, I know we talked about this a little bit before I hit record, but I mean, what is a Floridian? Because as a Tennessean, we get cold weather, but it's 13 up here this morning. I can imagine if it's in the 30s at your house, you just don't leave the house, right?
You don't leave the house. So when it's in the 30s at my house, it's like in the teens at your house. We got that wet, humid, cold, and it will just bone chilling. So yeah, you don't get out the house.
You don't leave. You just bundle up. I will say, dude, after fishing a lot of tournaments down there over the years, whether it's Toho or Okeechobee, and that in January tournaments in particular, that cold front's always coming. I've been there twice through the worst cold fronts I've ever seen when I fished Florida. Once on Toho in a Bassmaster Open, once in an FLW Tour event on Okeechobee. And I don't know that I've ever been that cold. And that's no joke. I mean, I know people are like, oh, wow, it got in the 30s and 40s, but there are no hills to block the wind. The wind just gasses. There's nothing to block it. And then that wet, that humidity like you're talking about, dude, it is the most miserable cold. Give me Minnesota and the snow over fishing in that. I'm serious. I hate it.
It absolutely sucks. It's super cold. It's a wet cold, and the fish are not going to bite. So, yeah, you get that high pressure, that wind blowing out the north, and you're in for a rough day.
Well, I think that first Bassmaster you won down there on Okeechobee, though, it was cold, right? So they will bite a little bit.
I remember that. It was 22 degrees when we took off that morning in Okeechobee. So, yeah, it was that was cold.
And sometimes they'll get up under them little mats that you like them to get under.
Yeah, that's back in the day, nobody did that. It was pretty easy to go around and pick them off. Now it seems like the people that's not scoping, they're up there flipping those mats.
Is that? I mean, and we talk about this on the show a lot with just every guest I have. Do you attribute that, I guess, just to fishing pressure? Because it's the same, like they don't get on the ledges anymore. And I know everybody wants to go forward facing sonars, ruining everything. There's a lot of people that think that, but man, these ledges down here on the Tennessee River changed long before forward facing sonar and how the school set up and the numbers of fish that got on them. But so you think the same thing's true down there in Florida on those mats?
Oh, absolutely. Fish are a lot smarter than what we give them credit for. When I was a kid, there was a Georgia Boys Fish Camp right down the road. The guy that owned that, his swimming pool got messed up, and he says, I'm not putting any more money into it. So basically, he started putting bass in his swimming pool, and he had 8 bass in there between 6 and 8 pounds, and you could walk upstairs and knock on a board, and all those fish would come to the top of the water because he would throw shiners to them and feed them. They was conditioned, they was trained when they heard that noise that they would come up there. So what I'm saying, if you can train a bass to do that, they're way smarter than what you think they are. And they get conditioned to the pressure that they're faced with in today's fishing world. You got way more people fishing now, and everybody with the internet and everything has learned the learning curve so much faster. You got I mean, they know what they're doing, you know, and those fish never catch a break. No matter if they're getting scoped, if they're getting flipped in heavy cover, if you're fishing docks, whatever you're doing, those fish are getting conditioned and they're harder to catch.
Do you think fishermen overall are better now than ever before, or at least more prepared?
Way more prepared, and they're way better. And you know, with the live, the forward facing sonar, those kids have really, they passed everybody up. You know, these old guys that they get hung up in what they used to do, and it should still work. And the forward facing sonars proved that. I used to say the fish live in 10% of the lake.
Yeah.
Totally false. They live over the whole lake now. You know, you can almost just turn your mapping off and just take off with your live scope and go find some. It's they don't relate to we used to always think they related to the structure, and they do, and contours, and they do. A number of them do, but there's a majority of the fish just get out there and roam on bait.
Yeah.
We never knew that before. So now we know that.
And, you know, I think about the mystery of a place like Okeechobee, where I was lucky enough to get to spend some time with you one time on a cool trip years ago. And there's always that, man, that wave's coming in from the lake. Look at the color of that one. That one's coming in from the lake. And it was this mystery, right? And they showed up where we wanted them to, and you got to catching them, but then they'd leave. But I think now with this technology, it is crazy. Like, I always just dreamed that those fish they just got out there, them big 8-pounders just swimming out there in a bunch in the middle. Yeah. It turns out we were right. We just didn't know how to go throw at them, I guess, then.
Yeah, we was actually down there and we was getting you set up to go flip heavy dense cover. And I think if I remember right, we had to go into a Home Depot and drill out a Ming Cutter prop to fit on your motor guide. You're like, how are we going to do this, Hammer? I said, we're going to drill it right in the store.
So I have that in my notes, the Home Depot story. I might as well. You folks, listen, Terry Scroggins should open a guide service and just take people fishing because it's an experience. But I had just bought a new Ranger. I was going to fish the FLW tour. Me and Shows down there messing around. I had a motor guide trolling motor that would not cut. It wouldn't cut through air, let alone grass. And Terry said, this ain't going to work, Hammer. And we went and bought to Walmart and bought a Minn Kota prop to put on the motor guide, which was a pro trick from Terry Scroggins. And we went and borrowed a drill.
Well, they had a display drill in the Home Depot for you to try out to see if if you liked it or not. So we were just going to try it out. And that's what we did. So we drilled this prop out inside a Home Depot, left the shavings in the floor for them, then had to go back in there because it didn't fit and do it again.
And then had to go back. We were out there on the front of my boat in the parking lot. And I'm like, what are we going to do now? We're going to go back in and use that drill again.
And just look at the money we saved, though. We didn't have to buy a drill. We used their drill bits.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. I've got a video of that somewhere from long, long ago. I actually had an iPhone stolen from me several years ago, and the nice lady that stole it deleted everything that was on it and everything that was in the cloud. So I lost years and years of pictures and video. I bet I got that somewhere on social media. I have to try to dig that up for folks. A video of you drilling out a prop back in about 2016. It's when it would have been 2015.
We had it pretty balanced and straight too. I was pretty impressed.
It actually ran pretty daggum good. I think on that trip we broke my side imaging transducer off on a gator. I believe we made contact with a gator. We did all kind of stuff on that trip, but mainly we super glued your nut onto your prop, so we made sure it wouldn't come off too. Remember that? I'm like, Hammer, I hope you don't never have to take this off because it ain't coming off. But you're gonna be able to go through the grass. And we did. We went through the grass. And I'll never forget after that tournament, you said, Did you flip mats? I said, I did for like 3 days of practice. Did you see how I got one, Hammer? I said, yeah. He said, Bradley Holman won it flipping mats. Why wouldn't you flip a mat? I said, I was flipping mats. I didn't get it was like telling my dad that was disappointed because I did. Y'all, I'll tell y'all low lifers this on Low Budget Live. This man right here, and y'all know it, with a flipping stick is just incredible. But I got to witness this for 2 or 3 days in Florida. And I'm absolute machine at it. And I felt like going to Okeechobee. I said, son, I'm going to go get me a dose of these boys. I know all about it. And I think I caught one flipping and I ended up catching them. I did decent the first day. And then the second day just sucked. And Bradley Hallman ended up beating everybody's brains in his first tournament back, flipping a few mats down there in South Bay. But Yeah, man. Good memories there. Another memory of mine that I was laughing about this morning, thinking about doing this, was back in the TH Marine days. I was at Toledo Bend, and I know you remember this because you were pretty upset. I didn't know you that well at the time, and they had just came out with that Gerald Swindle trolling motor handle, and I had put one of the first prototypes on your boat, and you got ready to blast off at Toledo Bend, and I had installed it the day before, and it may or may not have broke, and your big butt fell on the floor. And I remember getting at you in that afternoon after weighing, you're like, Hammer, this ain't gonna work.
This ain't gonna work.
This ain't gonna work.
We got her fixed though. It's all good.
Yeah, got it fixed, and it's rolling. Well, dude, you are $2.2 million into this crazy career, still out there grinding. You had a chance to win the BPT, came up just a little short. And man, I said last week on the show, watching you duke it out with Bobby, duke it out with Mark Davis, that's like my bass fishing, some of my bass fishing heroes right there. So it was fun. But where are you at? I mean, passion level wise right now, because you've always been a dude super fired up to go bass fishing. Are you still right there?
Yeah, I mean, that's just what I do. That's what I've done for the past 25 years. That's all I know. So, yeah, I'm still just as fired up today as I was 20 years ago. And you see new competition comes in. The games change with forward facing sonar and this and that. That was a cool event last week because, like you say, you had Mark Davis in there, Bobby Lane, myself, and we can only use live scope one period. I didn't use my live scope. I just put the lock box on it right now so I don't have to fool with it the rest of the day. And to get up there and less than 2 foot of water, just go flipping all day, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Why do you think in Florida, because I mentioned this last week, but why in Florida do the locals have such an advantage? Not saying they don't everywhere, but I feel like y'all hand out ass whippings in Florida over the years. You just do. Like it's just so different.
It's most of it's understanding the vegetation, not necessarily the vegetation, but what's on the bottom around the vegetation. So, like the pencil reeds, or they call them tules in California, or round reeds, whatever you want to call them, they typically tend to grow in sand, in a hard bottom. Then you have flat reeds or cattails, and they'll grow in the mud. And then, so fish, they'll still spawn on those flat reeds, but not like they do in the pencil reeds. And they'll get tighter to that because they're going to relate to something hard. And then the lily pads, they're gonna spawn on the pad roots. But for the most part, lily pads, they're just muck bottom. The bottom's not that good.
Right.
And so they're going to spawn on the roots. So you got to understand what vegetation you're in. The fish use all of it, but you got to understand how to fish each one of those to be productive. And a lot of guys go in there and they don't get that. And they'll just, and another thing is you got to be persistent. There's windows during the course of the day that those fish will feed in. And turn on and off. I shouldn't say feed in because most of the time they're spawning, but they'll turn off and on during periods of the day. And you got to be at the right place at the right time, but you got to realize what you're fishing to be productive in those areas. And you'll see guys, it might be just a subtle bait change that makes the big difference, or going from braid to fluorocarbon sometimes.
Yeah.
Just little small deals that make a big difference.
But yeah, y'all definitely, I mean, I said last week, the lanes, you over the years, just the dominance down there. I feel like y'all always in the mix. JT Kenny back in the day, JT Kenny straight up hand you one. I fished an open against him down there one time. I felt like I was on a different freaking planet than where that dude was fishing that week. I mean, it is truly something to, and then getting to spend time in the boat with you and watching it. You're like, oh yeah, these dudes are just different. And I'm not knocking any other local from a Rayburn or the Tennessee River or anything like that, but it does seem like in Florida, when you cross that state line, man, it is a different deal. And yeah, guys come from out of town and do win occasionally. That obviously it happens. Look at Tyler Rivette in that Bassmaster Elite Series, live scoping them in a river. Like the last thing anybody really thought that would win that event, right? That week. Yeah. And sometimes you get caught with a haymaker like that every now and then, but it does seem like out of all the bass fishing states where there are huge congregations of locals that fish tournaments, Florida is just that one where you're like, yeah, probably donating this week to a local.
a lot of our lakes are just bowl style lakes, meaning they don't have a whole lot of contour to them, and we have stretches that always produce year after year after year. And the reason why, they might be 6 inches, 8 inches deeper than what's around it. And those fish will gravitate to that. And just like where I caught them I was fishing a popka last week. I caught 46 pounds out of the size of area of your boat. And what the deal was, and it was on flat reeds. And the deal was, it was 2.2 feet instead of 1.4 feet. That was just 50 feet away. It was just a little depression that had those fish holding there. It was every fish around was right there in a 25-foot circle.
And I always wonder how the heck the ones that aren't there that end up there know that it's a little deeper right there.
Yeah, I don't know how they know that, but they know that.
Yeah, well, that's what my dad used to always say, like below the dams on the Tennessee River, because there's so much bait. We joked that once a bass got over 4 pounds, they just went and lived up there next to the concrete. My dad used to say, somehow they hear the dinner bell. I don't know, son, but there's a bunch of cheeseburgers up there and they end up there. And it is true. Like it sure seems that once they got to a certain size, they all lived up there, below them tail races and in the tail race. So no different than that in Florida. How do you deal with, because a lot of y'all's lakes, Okeechobee, prime example of this for me. I've never been there 2 times that it's ever looked the same, whether that's water level, vegetation. Now, historically, the same areas play like you're talking about, but do you find yourself having to relearn even like a Harris chain? Because, vegetation gets sprayed. St. Johns River, eelgrass goes away. Even though those stretches and it makes you dangerous as a local, do you find yourself having to relearn stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Especially at Okeechobee. The key to Okeechobee is finding clean water. That's why when you find clean water, you can find all the boats. And if you veer away from those boats, you're going to get your butt kicked. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just the way it is, because everybody finds the clean water. That's where the fish are going to be at. And that's just what's going to go on. The problem over the past, decade or so is we've had so many hurricanes just push across the state.
Yeah.
And you seen a fish kill it like a popka. There was a bad fish kill. What happens, they go in and spray the grass in the fall. That don't kill the fish. But what happens, then a hurricane comes and it flips the lake upside down. And that's when you get your fish kill. And that happens at Okeechobee as well. It turns the lake upside down. You get a lot of dirty water. So when you go down, the lake looks totally different when you go back, because it's knocked all the reeds out and everything, all of it, the floating vegetation out, and it just looks totally different. But if you go down there with a mindset of finding clean water and some kind of habitat around it, you're going to find bass.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, it is amazing. You can't run from the crowd in Florida. You can't.
Nope.
You can try.
Get in there with them. Yeah.
Yeah. You can try, but you fixing to take your butt back to Tennessee with a butt kick and ask me how I know.
That's it's mentally tough to do that. Like,
it is.
You're thinking to yourself, how am I going to get in this crowd and do well? And Florida's about catching, a limit of 2-pounders, 3-pounders, and then having a 9 or 10-pounder go with them. That's the separation. When I was in Apopka last week, I faced that problem. It was Wheeler was in there, Bobby Lane, Zach Burge, and Gary Klein. That was all of us that was in this area on day 1. And I go there on day 2, and they had a local tournament coming up on Apopka, I guess, because there was like 20 local boats in there. And I'm thinking, there's no way we're just flipping reeds. I said, there's no way I'm going to go behind those guys and do well. So here's the thing is I didn't get to Apopka till 10 o'clock every morning, because you had that lock that holds every bit of 3 boats.
Yeah.
And that's a 20-minute cycle. So every day I was getting over at 12 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And so I had the second, third period to catch them. So I go in there and I get in there the second day at 10 o'clock, and here's all these boats. I'm like, now I got 2 periods to figure this out. I'm like, I'm not staying here. I'm not going to get my butt kicked just sitting here going behind somebody. So I took off and just started running the lake. And I know where some good stretches are. And I finally, I get all the way to the other end of the lake, and I'm like, I can't leave nobody's not on this stretch, but that's cool. And I roll up in there and I catch them, and I come from 52nd all the way up to, I don't know, 5th or 6th, whatever it was. And I should have caught them the first day. I had to fish on the first day to do really well, flipping those heavy reeds, and I lost fish after fish after fish. And Bobby did too, and Wheeler did too. We was all talking about how many fish, how hard it was to get out of that stuff. But that's one of the very few times that I ran away from a crowd and have done good in an event. So, yeah, it worked out.
worked out. It sounds like.
But I think I went right past Poche and Avino on the way. I think I passed some guys up
somewhere. Here's what you should have done. being the big show. And me and Drew Gill talked about you last week, because I said at all these tournaments, you get these guys, and on social media, and they making videos of one over the other's shoulder, and they doing all this, this, that, and the other. I said, if you'll set up a UFC octagon at the damn weigh-ins, we can cure all this at the boat ramp. We can cure this. And I told Drew, I said, no offense to you, Drew Gill, but if it comes between you and Big Show, I'm just going to follow you out there scoping in the middle. I'm not going to go fish Big Show's grass line. I'm not. I refuse. I said, maybe he's got some bad knees. I don't know, but I'm still picking you. And he goes, yeah. He said, you definitely want a dose of me before you do show. I said, oh, I know, that's true. So I think that would settle a little bit of this social media bull crap.
Absolutely, it would. Now I got my knees fixed. I'm doing good now. But
I shouldn't even have said that. Now I'm scared.
Yeah, there's a lot of jawing going on. You're absolutely correct. If you could just set up, just put a rope around in the parking lot and say, hey, y'all gonna figure this out. Yeah, and
figure it out.
Yeah, 90% of it stop,
Exactly right. Y'all quit.
I don't, most time, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've had very, very few confrontations out there, which I treat people right. But if they do come across that line and get on your stuff, I just mark it down, because I've been fishing a long time. I'm going to keep on fishing a long time. The guys that do that to me, it's coming back at them.
Yeah.
Listen, I treat them how they're going to treat me,
I'll never forget a run-in I had with a gentleman that'll remain nameless. He was an Alabama angler that I had me a good tussle with on Lake Hartwell over some bedding fish one time. And I told him, I said, you know what, dude? And I was already in this area. He came in on me. My co-angler at the time said, and this guy was the all-time money winner, FLW, on the co-angler side, FLW. He says, the worst thing I've ever seen anybody do to anybody. I kind of kept my cool, and I said, all right, here's the deal, dude. I said, I won't forget this, but understand, you better hope. I said, this is event number 2, that they ain't somewhere you're at where I want to be later this year. And I got my chance at Kentucky Lake not much longer after that. And boy, he didn't like that. But I said,
when the shoe's on the other foot, it don't work the same way.
Yeah. I said, I'm fixing to fish this dot. That's where I want to be. Yeah. And it was a little one cast deal. And we had another conversation at Kentucky Lake. And I think that's what the fans, because the fans eat it up, right? Social media, they get in a frenzy over this stuff, picking sides and this, that, and the other, but they don't, I think a lot of them don't realize, like, that just happens. It happens all the time.
You know what, here's the deal. It happens to the same guys over and over and over. So there might be a little something to that. If you see me get into it with somebody, it's because it's, prior engagement. That's and I'm returning a favor. So, and I will do that, but 99% of those guys out there are good, and you got a few of them that get a little aggressive. So you got to get aggressive back with them.
It's always been that way, though. There's always going to be some way too aggressive, in my opinion. And that's one thing I've never, ever heard about you. And I think you do try to get along with everybody. I thought that was real cool. Drew Gill said last week, he said, man, Terry was one of the guys when I first got on tour last year, out of all the veterans, that actually took the time to speak to me and talk to me. And man, that may seem real simple, but that means something, dude. Because I know there's a level of intimidation when you're coming in as a rookie, but around all these big name guys that are your heroes. But then to kind of, and look, veterans can give you that treatment, and for good reason. You got to earn your stripes as a rookie. But Drew saying that, man, that meant a lot to him, and that says a lot about your character.
Yeah, he's just a good guy, and I could tell that first time I saw him, and I try to talk to everybody, they're fishermen just like I am. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else does, and I'm not no better than anybody else. So I try to treat everybody the same way until they rub you wrong, and then you learn from that and move on.
That's right. Put them on the list.
That's right.
Put them on that list. Yeah, Drew is, man. He's an impressive. I've talked to him a couple times, and he's an impressive young man. And I think he's got a real bright future. Obviously, now he loves that forward-facing sonar, and he's pretty daggum dialed in on it.
I think, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, but I think he's the best that there is with it. And he's super good with it. It don't matter if they're suspended and he's catching with a jig head minnow. If they're on the bottom, he's throwing a Nico or a drop shot at him. He knows that system.
No doubt about it, man. And now to see him with only 2.5 hours to do it, like what we got to watch at Conroe and at Harris Chain, he almost made the top 10. He was one of the only ones kind of sticking with it. And he said, man, I was doing a suspended deal out in the middle. And he said, I came up. I mean, he was the first guy to cut. He's like, I just barely missed it with 2.5 hours. That's pretty stout getting it done in 2.5 hours.
That 1 hour of one period of live scope might benefit him more than having the whole day, because he's so good with it, so efficient with it. You know, I can catch him on live scope. Everybody out there can, but not like he can. He just, when you see, I don't know how old Drew is, 22, 23, and he's got the beat down mount now so he can raise it up or whatever. But before, I'd see him all hunched over, like getting 3 inches away from the screen. I said, if he's that young and that close to the screen, I am way missing out on some stuff. Okay. I'm not seeing everything I need to be seeing. But he's got it figured out. He knows what, there's some things in there. Everybody's like, oh, live scoping is easy. And it is, it changes the game, but there's still a huge difference between being super good with it and efficient than just the average Joe going fishing with it.
Dude, it's like any other style of fishing. I don't care what it is. You make flipping look easy. People make sight fishing look easy. They make certain things, skipping docks, look easy. And I do know that, I mean, the technology does give you an advantage. Like, I understand all that, but watching a Drew Gill, fishing with a Drew Gill, or, you know, the Hayden Marbot. I don't know if you're familiar with Hayden. He's won a ton of stuff. Won the Toyota championship. He just had a good one down at Toyota at Okeechobee. But this kid, watching him compete against other people that I know are very, very, very good, like I'm doing on the water coverage stuff that I know are dialed with live scope, and then him just putting a savage beat down on them, fishing the same area, you go, all right, there's some differences here, just like any other style. You know, it's like going against David Fritz back in the day, offshore cranking. Like, you don't want to do that when he was dialed on it before everybody else was. It's like flipping behind you. It's just it's a totally different thing. So Drew, that's such an interesting point I hadn't thought of. It actually is an advantage for him. He calls it the turbo round now, but that 2.5 hours, because he's so good with it. How have you approached that new format? I mean, because I know I've seen you, last year out there chasing them around with it, because you just got to, right? How do you approach it in your mind? Like,
the MLF is such a different strategy to start off with, because every fish counts, and you almost got to put a practice together where you got everything within 10 miles of your circle. You cannot afford to run around. You can't take off and run 30 miles like you can in a normal tournament, shut down and catch your 5 biggest fish, because when you do, you're going to be that many more pounds behind. And so it's a whole different mindset to start off with. And then on top of that, you got your scope around the 2.5 hours. You can use your live scope, and you got to use your strategy to when is that going to be the best period of the day. And for me, most of the time it's the first period. But there's certain scenarios where you could pick the wrong period and it just wipe you out. So, man, it's kind of, sometimes it's kind of frustrating, trying to figure all that out. And these guys are so good with it, and they know when they're going to use it. And, the neat thing about it, we can use it through practice, and, but you can't use it but one period during the event. So that you got 2 days of practice, you can figure out which period is going to be the best, what you think is going to be the best. Sometimes it's a guess, educated guess, and sometimes it works out. But, I don't know. I feel like I'm behind. Like I feel like I'm really good scoping. Like, I come home, catch a crappie on it, go catch bass.
Yeah, I see all your posts. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I do the crappie fishing thing, it's just like bass fishing. Like, it helps you know where your targets are. You can watch your bait fall. Everything's the same. It's just you're different. You fish for different species, but it helps you put your bait in the right place, and know where to make your cast and all this and that to be effective. But then you get out there with those guys, and they're just so much further ahead of you. I'm good when I'm like looking straight ahead, or maybe 10 o'clock to 1 or 2 o'clock. But when you get those ones that's over at 3 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you're making a side cast. Yeah, those guys are still thumping them in the head, and you might be off a foot, and that's just the difference, They're just good with it. And when you consolidate all that down into one period, and it's like, when you turn your scope off after the next 2 periods, you're just like Ray Charles. You can't see nothing, It's like,
exactly right.
It's in your head,
That's so true.
It was, and Drew Gill, he when we was at Conroe, he proved that he can catch them without scope too, because he went and caught them after he turned his scope off.
That's exactly
And
right.
you could put a Drew Gill in an NPFL where you can't use scope at all, and he might not be dominant like he is with the scope, but he's still going to be a good fisherman. He's still going to catch them checks. You know, he's not. Yeah, he's not where he's at by no chance. You know, just
exactly right. He understands fish and fish behavior. Yeah, he's learned a lot of it looking at him on a screen, and he admits it. I mean, that's his favorite thing. It's how I grew up fishing.
Just but like he can still catch them just fishing, so don't let him fool you.
Ain't no doubt. You don't. I always joke. I'm like, if y'all get to clowning on these guys on the internet, understand you don't want them in your bass club.
No.
You don't.
You look at smoke. Yeah, I think Spencer Sheffield, he chose his last period at Conroe to scope instead of the first two, and everybody else is scoping in the first two.
Yep.
And he's sitting there, he's catching them during the first two periods. I mean, all those guys can fish. They don't need scope to catch them. It makes them a whole lot better when they're using it, but they can get it done without it too.
No doubt. But what was amazing about Spencer, though, that elimination round, he came from like dead last and almost made the freaking top 10.
Yes.
Almost made the cut in one period. It was insane what a run that kid went on. So wild to see, man. Well, so talk a little bit about your tackle tinkering and what got you into that, man, because I've got a daggum shelf full of Big Show custom pours down here that I hold near and dear to my heart and always will. I got some little sneaky colors you put me on over the years. They don't work anywhere but Florida, folks. Don't worry about it. If you in Florida, he's got the medicine for you though. But how did that come about where you started just because, dude, you've gone deep into that?
Man, that's like worse than crack. It's very addictive. It's I started that back in, I don't even know. I think 2010, I was going to, I might have the years wrong, but I think it was 2010. I was going to Oklahoma out to Grand Lake and pre-practice. That was biting a water dog. You get a bit on it, and it was those bait, and couldn't get them no more. So I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can't. I didn't know beans about making bait. You know, I didn't know squat about it. I'm like, this can't be that hard. It's a pretty simple bait to make. So I got on the internet and I called a few guys, and I finally found a guy that would make it for me, and he made it. And that's what really started the whole thing. And I haven't made one in water dogs in about, I don't know, 12 years, but that's what got it started. And I just got addicted to it. And really, if you're going to go buy you a Zoom trick worm or a finesse worm or something, I'm not going to make those. They're too easy to go buy, and you can find them anywhere. You can go to Walmart, Bass Pro, whatever. They're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And you can't make them as cheap as you can buy them. So stuff like that, I'm not going to sit there and spend my time making, but I spent a lot of time making, flipping baits, creature baits, baits that you might not be able to buy that color in the store. And I got a lot of baits. It's the same exact baits you'll buy in a store, but you're not going to get the colors that I got. So that's just like this last tournament. I was flipping a Magnum finesse worm, Zoom Magnum finesse worm. I go to the tackle store. June bug's the best color on Harris chain. Always has been, always will be. Store had 4 packs of them. So first day I ran out, I'm like, what am I going to do now? Well, they got some red bug there, so I got red bug. Well, they bit them too, so I went and went through all them. And then the last day I run out of those and went to South African Special, and they bit those the same way. It was the profile of the bait itself that was biting. So I'm like, I'm not going to get caught up in this no more. So I done ordered me a mold of that. So I got one coming here next week. So I have my own Magnum finesse worm. And if the store's got them, it's easier just to go get them. But when they don't have them, like if you had 300 or 400 of them made up in your truck, it's so easy to go to the back of your truck and get. It's the same bait.
Yes.
So it's super, super easy to do. People get scared to death about modifying a crankbait or a chatterbait or whatever, making soft plastics. I make all my own rods. It's easy. It's super easy to do. Like anybody can do it, but people are scared to death to try it.
Yeah. What's your favorite bait that you make? If you'll tell us, because I know you're a sneaky sucker. What's your favorite favorite shape, I guess?
I pour a lot of them old Sakamoto shads because you can't get a Sakamoto shad.
Yeah.
But you can in my house. I just I've got 3 different molds of Sakamoto shads. I pour a lot of those, a lot of jig minnow baits and that's really, really cool because you can make some super cool colors that you can't buy in the store. And,
that's cool.
Yeah. So I like making stuff like that. I pour a lot of creature baits. You know, I got the exact bait of a beaver. The rage bug, I got a lot of those, and then of course like the fire claw, the cricket that I flip a lot down here. I've got that. Just got a lot of stuff that you can't buy in the store, and to me, it's more confidence. You can go behind people with because well they don't have this bait. They're not using the same thing I'm using because they can't get it. So it's more of a confidence thing than anything else.
I have felt that using your stuff, especially in Florida, flipping behind people, and I'm going, well, I got this, and I know they don't, and I know they like this color because I've seen it. There's definitely some of that. Like I said, I still got a good mini. You got to call that the show amata. I think it's the show amata. It ain't no sock amata. We're not gonna get sued. We're not gonna get you sued. It's the show amata. It's the show amata now, and I'm gonna need some of them. I'll text you my address right after this because your boy can't find any show amatas anywhere in the middle of Tennessee. So we're out here at the Duncan house currently, and I'm Jones, and I need some more show amatas.
They're pretty effective. Yeah, they work pretty good.
Yeah, they like that show amata a little bit sometimes. Yeah. They ain't no doubt. When you're talking about color in those mag finesse worms, and you said, June bugs, the juice, obviously, and it is in a lot of places in Florida, and then you went to red bug and South African special. Have you had a lot of moments over the years in pro tournaments in particular where you're flipping the same style bait, but in one of your custom colors where you've noticed that, though? Like, other than just your own confidence, you just clean up behind them?
Yeah. We was in one of those lakes in North Carolina up there. I can't remember the names of them, but the 3 small lakes that had all the big fish in them.
James, I think.
No, shoot, I can't remember the name.
Jordan
was one of them. Anyway, the water was dark. It was muddy, dirty, and so you flip black, blue. Dirty water. So half the day through practice, I'm going and going and going. I'm not getting bit whatsoever. I'm thinking I'm fishing some really good looking stuff and not getting bit. It makes no sense. So at 12 o'clock, I switched from a black and blue jig to a green pumpkin jig with a trailer I had. It's green pumpkin and a couple, some different color in it, and immediately got bit. And I had like 35 or 40 bites the rest of the day just by a color change. The same exact jig, same trailer, same everything, just a color change.
Wow!
And that was so crazy to me. I mean, the book says it's black and blue. It's got to be, And you can take black and blue, green pumpkin, go anywhere in the country, and one of those two colors should catch them,
Yeah.
And if that opened my eyes up a lot because of the water clarity, how it was, and they would just not touch one color and bite the other color.
And you think that was just they were seeing too many of them, maybe?
Maybe so, yeah. There's a lot of pressure on the bank,
Yeah.
And but it was like turning a light switch on when I changed colors.
That's so crazy, and it is interesting to think about that though. In dirty water, shad don't change color, crawfish don't change color. We putting chartreuse dip on our deal.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you don't see a shad paint himself chartreuse or bright orange, fluorescent orange, so they can find him. And you'll be in muddy water, you can't see 2 inches deep, and you'll see a shad get busted.
Yeah, just
gulp. And I still do that. I still I still do it, but you shouldn't have to because just don't. I mean, how do they find that shad? But they do.
I still love my orange bladed spinnerbait.
Oh yeah,
when that water gets a little dirty, I still like my old Indiana blade and a little bit of orange. I still like that, even though, like I said, I've never seen. My dad used to say that when I threw that spinnerbait around him. He's like, boy, them shad don't change color just because they got dirty. I don't know why you think they orange. I'm like, well, they bite that orange spinnerbait sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. I want to end with this one. If you'll tell us a little bit about this day. and he said, he said, Luke knows too much. Lake Falcon.
Okay.
You rolled up, son. The rumor is maybe in a limo. That you were
No. I got to set the record straight. I got to set the record straight on this. So
don't ruin the legend. Don't ruin the legend.
No, I know where you're going with this. But I'm gonna tell you the whole truth about it. Because the tournament director asked me about this 2 tournaments later.
Okay.
And luckily, I had a 30-minute conversation with him that morning. He actually helped me put my boat in the water. So, Yeah, that was back in the day. I was 22 pounds behind the leaders.
Yep.
And the hotel we were staying at, there was a bar grill right next door. So I went over there and had a few beers with the boys, with the fellas, but I was home by midnight. And the rumor was I showed up in a limo, which how do you pull your boat to the boat ramp in a limo? All that don't work.
You got dropped off. This is, hey, look, let's blame Gerald Swindle for this rumor because I think Gerald tells everybody.
Gerald can start a little story now.
Ain't no doubt. But you were dropped off in a limo and then caught 40 pounds.
Actually, it was 44.4.
44, yes. Sorry.
But I was at the boat ramp before anybody else was, except for Trip Weldon, our tournament director. Trip actually backed me in the water, and I sat there and talked to Trip for 45 minutes before everybody else got there, 30 minutes. So, like, 2 tournaments later, Trip said, he's like, "Show, I got to talk to you about something." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Remember was you showed up to the tournament and you'd been drinking?" I said, "Trip, do you not remember talking to me for 30 minutes before everybody got?" And he sat there for a minute. He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Did I look like I was?" He said, "No, not at all." I said, "Well, that's what they're talking about." So, luckily, Trip was there as my eyewitness, and but I did catch 44 that day, and I did have some beers that night, but the night before I was 22 pounds behind. I was just going to have fun the next day. So, yeah, that's
man, you just deflated me. You deflated the story. That is the Terry Scroggins Big Show legend that puts you on the Mount Rushmore of bass fishermen in my eyes, is that you got dropped off in a limo and then went and caught 44 pounds, son. Come on.
I love G-Man Swindle to death, but you know how he can flip a story like upside down 3 times.
Really not Gerald.
Yeah.
Not Gerald. What was your biggest that day? Didn't you have like 2 12s or something?
I had 44.4 with a 6-pounder in my bag. So I should have won the event. I lost a 10-pounder with 10 minutes to go. It come up and jumped. I saw the fish. But yeah, I had 11.8, another 11,
jeez,
a 10, a 9, and it was stupid. And catching them out of 22 foot of water on a 10-inch Zoom old monster worm, that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
That probably never happened again.
No, I doubt it, especially down there. Life's crazy down there these days, no doubt about it. Do you think with some of the big weights that we see now, because we have seen some craziness now, things are getting a little wild. Do you think we'll ever see that in a pro tournament again in a 5-fish deal? Or are you going to see 44 to 45 pounds again, like Dean's bag and your bag?
You could if everything got aligned just right,
Yeah.
In Florida, it takes special weather for that to happen. Moon phases, everything's got to fall on a good moon phase. Cold weather before it and the water's warming up sets everything that up perfect. But the thing of it is, when Dean did that, not everybody in the world was sight fishing.
That's true.
Everybody now knows to sight fish under those conditions. So
yeah,
it gets spread out more, and it'll be extremely tough to get that done. But these guys are good. I'm not going to say it's not ever going to happen, but it's going to be tough to make it happen.
Yeah, I think there was it 39, 30, 38 or 39 in Texas the other day. I saw 31 at Lake Murray this weekend. I mean, I joked the other day, 30 is the new 20, I feel like, in 5-fish tournaments. Like my whole life, you caught 20, you're like, all right, we're okay, unless you're on Gunnersville and you're 40th or something, because that was an exception to the rule. But like most of the time, hey, I got 20, we're going to be okay. And now it's like, don't even turn a head a lot of times with 5-fish stuff. Pickwick has like 42 bags over 20 in a daggum Toyota. Man, it's nuts, dude.
What do you think about it? You think the fisherman's getting better? The technology's getting better? All of it put together is making it like that? Because the fish themselves are getting smarter and smarter every day.
Yeah. I think it's a combination. I think I'm lucky, man, that I'm not as lucky as you to get to catch them so good that I get to catch them for a living, but getting to cover MPFL, getting to cover Alabama Bass Trail. I do 15 tournaments for ABT, 6 for MPFL, or 7 a year. So I get to watch a lot of bass fishing, and I get to watch a lot of really great fishermen. And, dude, I think it is a combination. It's the technology coupled with the fact that the flow of information. I mean, you're a secretive guy. I feel like all pros for a long time were as secretive as they could be, because you had to. It was your livelihood. You weren't going to say, hey, this color right here or this not. Like the little sneaky tricks, like tinkering tricks that I've learned from you over the years about, keeping a jig trailer on, or this knot versus this, and just little sneaky things. We gave so much, and I say we, But the fishing industry, we gave that stuff away for 500 and 1,000 views at a time on social media, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that some of that sneaky stuff, when you got a sponsor that says, "Hey, Luke, we need you to make a video about something." Well, of course you're going, like, there's only so many ways to tie a Palomar knot. There's only so many ways to trim a jig skirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think now, especially these younger guys, and they get a lot of crap because it's like daddy's money, live scope. That's the two things. Well, dude, they're in a different life stage of everybody, right? They're not married, most of them. They don't have kids. They sleep in the back of their truck like I used to. You know, they don't care. They're obsessed with it. So I think it's a combination of all that. And then that flow of information, dude, they roll up to a tournament. Like you just said, when Dean caught 45, half the field looked like they was lost as last year's Easter eggs. They was catching 9 and 10 pound bags. And then them boys that knew to go look at them smashed. And it was one of the greatest tournaments of all time. Now them saying that you take a group of anglers that rolls up at Toho and the stars align, they all going to be doing it.
Yeah, there'll be 100 boats doing it instead of 10.
That's right.
That's the difference maker. So
that is, yeah. But I do think just because of the history that's on YouTube of old tournaments, the up to the date information you can get on so many lakes now, their networking skills because of social media that so many anglers have now, man, they roll up knowing, oh, I need to go to Bear Creek on Pickwick and fish this. They know that before they get the boat in the water. And used to, it took me a day to figure out, oh, this is kind of there, or a day or two. This is kind of where it goes down here.
That's the thing. You get those guys in an area with the electronics that we have, whether it's side imaging, down scan, or live scope or perspective. It don't take them long to figure it out. Like when they see a bass, they're going to be able to catch it. They're going to figure out how to catch it.
That's right.
So back in the day, you didn't know if there was one set there or not. Now we don't fish until we see them. So just the way it is.
No, the efficiency level is so through the roof. And I think, I feel like you'll agree with this, especially on a place where you live, like the St. John's, but between satellite imagery that you can look at now, but then these I know nothing about tides, but dude, with electronics the way they are now, I got that on my daggone graph and I go, oh, we're right down here. It's going to be doing this in a little bit. I mean, it makes me understand it that quick, and so that's just something that, again, you would have and you still have an advantage, but 10, 12 years ago, you'd have a huge advantage because you're like, oh, well, I know today right here, I need to be here. Well, now it's all at your fingertips. There's apps. I don't know. It's definitely a different time. And I think it's harder to compete now than ever before because especially every time we get a new influx of quote unquote rookies, dude, they've been fishing tournaments since high school.
They're so tech savvy and your older generation's not. And that's the difference in it. You know, the older guys grew up not doing that. So they're like, they're not going to start. And the new guys, that's all they know.
That's it. So. Yeah. And you can't fault them for it. I know there's a lot of hate and negativity in it. And I've said this a bunch lately is there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in bass fishing. If you can get through the negativity and just look, like it's pretty cool to see what's being uncovered right before our eyes. Like, oh, those fish on Pickwick do this in the winter that we never thought about while we were up here drifting a swim bait in the current, hoping for 5 bites. Oh, we could have caught 35 pounds down the lake on this one stump. That kind of stuff's neat to me. Just being around the sport my whole life. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I say this a bunch too, dude. In those 225 boat tournaments, like the Alabama Bass Trail, it's amazing how few of them get one live scoping. Purely live. It's amazing, but they're 1 days, right? And we see a lot of people doing it and a lot of people in the top 10, but it is rare that when we're interviewing a winner, they're like, we just scoped all day. There's always some guy that found one little deal away from everybody that's out there scoping in the 1 day deal that ends up winning. Like Smith Lake 2 weeks ago was that deal. 19 pounds, all largemouth, caught on a bank.
Yeah. The scoping deal is a great way to generate numbers. I mean, in the league I'm fishing in, it's hard to beat that. But you go, so you go with your 5 biggest fish, and it changes that somewhat. You're still going to have guys in the AOY that's dominant because they're going to catch them every event. But a lot of your tournaments are not going to get one scoping, maybe partially, but not totally.
I agree.
So it does. But in our format, man, it's it's tough.
You got to run that scoreboard up.
Yep.
Big time. What are you looking forward to next on the schedule the most out of the rest of them y'all got to go to? What have you got circled?
We're going to Murray in a couple of weeks. That'll be a fun event. That's going to be that lake's on fire.
Should be fun.
We got Red Crest at Gunnersville. That's going to be a good one. I love going to Gunnersville.
Yeah.
Potomac will be good for me. You know, it's a tidal deal, shallow grass that you can probably turn your scope off on that one.
Probably.
And then Saginaw Bay, if we can keep the lower gear case on my motor out there, all them rocks, that'll be a fun time too. Man, that place got some rock in it.
It does, man. But how cool is that? If you close your eyes when you're up there, and I've never got to fish it. I've covered it a couple times in MPFL. It looks like you're at Okeechobee.
It does. It's reeds everywhere. The only problem with that, you can be a mile offshore out in open water and just cream a rock.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And I've hit my share of stuff during my career. You know, you hit a log or a stump. Yeah, you know you hit it, but it don't just wipe out everything. You hit one of those rocks and it goes ting, and you don't have no bottom half of your engine left. It's gone.
Yeah.
It just cleans it all.
Yeah, they don't give. They have no
give at all. So yeah, it's a fun place to fish, but man, it costs you a few dollars.
It's tricky. There's no doubt about it. Well, you can certainly fix it though. Maybe not that. If it's a boat issue, you can fix it. I've seen it.
I can fix a lot of things, but I can't just pull a gear case out of my back pocket. And
you can't take one of them out of the rod locker and pop it back on. That ain't happening, Show. Well, dude, I certainly appreciate you joining me, man. I'm sorry it took so long because this was a good time. We're gonna have to do it again.
We can do it,
buddy. I appreciate you, and good look at Murray.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all. See you, man.
Thank you. See you, buddy. Well, all right, that's all she wrote with the one and only Big Show, Terry Scroggins. So grateful that he could spend that much time with us telling stories. He got me there a few times, as you can imagine. Again, spent a lot of time with that dude, learning from him, and just grateful that I know him and love that we finally got him on LBL for the low lifers, indeed. And I'm glad he could clear up Gerald Swindle's bullcrap. Okay, because maybe G's been lying to me for a lot of years on the limo story, and that is very sad for me to find out that is not true. Damn it, boy, as Joey Bro says. All right, we're going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues. Do not forget, you can hear this live March 22nd, Birdie's Social Club, Fort Worth, Texas. Bassmaster Classic. We're going to be there doing the low budget live thing. Going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues. Thank y'all for everything. I'll see y'all next time. See.
From Jacksontown to Tupelo, I never could make it last. Spanish moss and Civil War ghosts, well, I'm gonna leave them in the past. Any direction, Lord, I'll be fine. It don't matter, east or west. North, south, wherever the wind blows, I'm leaving those burdens at rest. This highway, it does not know my name, and I don't care, no, I don't care. Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.